Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome. I'm glad that you could make it. My name is Casey Ferrara. I am the Director of Early Intervention here, and I also oversee our Early Learning Center with Megan. I have been here almost 7 years, and before that I was actually an assistant operations manager of 17 different locations, which we have some people from today. So I've been in the early childhood field a long time. So this training started when we had a bunch of families asking us just kind of, let's talk about development. What are the normal things that are happening? What should I expect? What's going on? So I will tell you that I had 4.5 years of schooling, about 18 years experience, but the most I have learned is from being a mom, because that's really where you live it. So I have an almost 8-year-old and a 9.5-month-old. So probably a lot more has been learned through that than anything else, as I'm sure any of you who are parents know. So tonight we're going to go through just some typical stages of development, what you should be worried about if things aren't happening at certain times. We're also going to go through the things that happen that are pretty typical, biting, tantrums, picky eating, all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to let Anja introduce herself, and then we'll start with our first activity.
My name is Andrea Furtado. I am the infant toddler kind of overseer in Bright Futures. I have been an early childhood educator with Bright Futures for 15 years. I have been with toddlers for 14 of those years.
She took a 1-year side trip.
I took a 1-year side trip and came back. Toddlers are truly what I'm passionate about, and I have been working with children in some capacity since I was 16 and kind of have never looked back. So toddlers are kind of my thing. It's kind of what I'm most passionate about. Things like this I actually am a total geek about. Like, I kind of could spend hours talking about how much I enjoy being a teacher, and particularly being with toddlers. So I'm looking forward to this experience.
So the first thing I want to kind of get a grip on tonight before we go any further is what you know about child development already. So around the room you'll see we did kind of a 0 to 1, 1 to 2, and 2 to 3. What we want to know is, what do you know about those ages? What do you know about those stages? So there's markers on the tables. So if you want to go around and kind of visit and just kind of write what you do know about development in those ages, so obviously just a few things, bullet a couple things. And then I put up a questions page. What do you have questions about tonight? Because we want to make sure we can try to answer as many of your questions as we can. So if you want to go around and do some of that, we'll have a starting point. So we might not get as in-depth. My slides are very detailed. So we don't have to get as in-depth about it if it's stuff you already know. All right, does that sound good? All right, so go ahead. So for 0 to 3 months, where you would be concerned would basically be if the baby's not startled by a loud noise. So that would obviously bring in concern of hearing, right? If they're not sucking or swallowing with ease, so you're kind of giving a bottle, you're hearing them kind of gasp as they're sucking, so maybe it's kind of like a suck, 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 and then all of a sudden you hear that means that they're not kind of coordinating their swallow and their sucking, because you should hear a 1-to-1. Suck and swallow. That's how it should go. If they're losing lots of liquid outside of their mouth too when they're swallowing out of a bottle, something's not right about the suction on there. If they're slow to gain in height, weight, and head circumference, because that's when they should be gaining a lot, is in those first couple months. If they're not looking at you in the face by 3 months, by the end of 3 months when they're awake. If they can't roll their head from side to side, so not their body, but if they were able to pick their head up on their belly, they should be able to kind of swipe from to both sides. And if they weren't able to be calmed when picked up. So obviously we know things like colic happen, and so some of us have experienced that firsthand. So obviously at some point though they do still calm, and when you have things like colic, you feel like that really stiffened stomach, or their body part might be a little bit tighter, or things like that. That's when you know it's a little bit more than just not being able to be calm because they want to be held. Does that make sense? All right, so we move to our next age group.
It takes forever, so we have to do it this way.
Oh, so a few other things that if they're not doing would be if they're not responding with a smile by the end of 3 months. Babies usually start to smile around that 6 to 8 week stage. If they can't follow something with their eyes, so that's when they start to track things from one end to the other, so you want to make sure that at some point they can track all the way from this side all the way across. If they're not bringing their hands to midline, so kind of what happens when babies are born is everything's really tight and everything's kind of in, and then as they start to develop, things start to kind of move out and they start to move their arms out, and then at this point they're starting to kind of bring them back in. A lot of babies, you can see both their hands and their mouths at that point. And if they're not turning their heads when they hear a sound. So not even just startled, but they're actually starting to look towards a sound. Okay? All right. So if we start to move to the next age group of 4 to 6 months. Yeah. So if they aren't holding on to things that you place in their hands. So they may not necessarily be grabbing it on their own, but if you place something in there, it's not just that reflex anymore that the hand closes, but they're actually trying to get a hold of it and kind of hold on to it. But they are going to start to reach. They might reach and drop, but they're going to start to reach for things. They're going to start to smile, coo, laugh out loud. You start to hear that first giggle somewhere around 4 to 5 months, which is so cute. Everybody videotapes it now, right? They should be able to hold, maybe shake or rattle. Again, they might shake once or twice and drop it, but it's one of those things where they're trying to really get a grip on things and move it around. And they start to realize that they have hands and they're attached to their body and they're checking them out. So we move on to like 7 to 9 months. So you start to see their weight and height kind of start to slow down a little bit at this point. So they're starting to move a little bit more. So they're starting to maybe get up on their hands and knees and crawl. Maybe they're starting to cruise or stand and pull up. So you start to see that all that movement is slowing down what they're eating. Plus you're probably backing off on some of the formula or breast milk that you're giving at that point. You can start to introduce some solid foods if they have some teeth, or you can start to do more dissolvable stuff if they don't. So some puffs. Everybody starts with those. Gerber made a fortune off those puffs, right? And just so, it was funny, someone had told me, those Cheerios don't dissolve the way they used to, and it's because they actually changed the outside of it when they made them whole grain. It is crunchier and harder for babies now to actually dissolve those. Just a thought that nobody knew. Nobody mentioned that. And the main physical growth at this point is their teeth. So they're working on all that teething that's coming in, which everybody knows leads to no sleep, right? So they start to develop memory at this age. They start to remember people that are familiar. They start to remember things that are familiar.
I got it, Steph.
This is when that object permanence kind of comes into place. You take something and hide it, and instead of them going on to something else, they now scream for the thing that you just took away because they want it, like your keys in the store. They start to repeat actions that they're praised for. So you start to notice that maybe they learn to clap, and you get excited, and so they start to do it again. And they start to activate cause and effect toys. So they might be able to push a button on something so it makes a noise, or they can push something so it activates lights or something like that. So starting to think about speech at this age, they start to mimic sounds. So if they're saying da 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 and you say it back, they'll say it back to you again. They start to understand what's being said. So by the end of that 9th month, when you say no, they stop and look at you and then probably go back to what they were just doing, but they know what you said. They start to show interest in sounds of objects, so they like music. They like toys that are maybe playing music, or you notice that if you have the TV or radio on, they're kind of looking towards those sounds or those things that are on. They start to recognize names of common objects. If you say, do you want a bottle? You know, they know what you're talking about at that point. They start to follow really simple instructions. So things like if you call their name, they start to look. Sometimes if you tell them to give you something, they will. Sometimes they won't. And they're starting to do those 2 syllables together when they're down. So the dad, mama, baba. Those are usually the first ones we hear. So the first sounds that you come across are the B, the P, the M, and the D. And then they're still talking. So they start with peekaboo around this age. They'll play. They like when you do it with them. They'll laugh. They'll give you a response back for it. Sometimes they'll be able to do it too. They'll do it more like with an item versus their hand. So if you put a blanket over them, they'll take the blanket back off and they'll put it over their heads and say, and drop it and wait for you to say peekaboo. They'll start pointing at things, and by the end of the 9th month, sometimes a little later, they'll start to shake their head down. And then you're in trouble. So for motor, they start to bang things together. That's when they start to, everything they have, they start to bang because they realize it makes noise when I do this. This is great. They'll transfer things from one hand to the other so that they can pick something else up. They're sitting unassisted, so you can leave them on the floor, usually in a sitting position, walk away. They can get into the sitting position kind of from their bellies, and they can get out of the sitting position and onto their bellies. So you kind of see that what usually happens is when they're sitting, they lean too far forward and they end up on their stomach, and then they're kind of like, oh, okay. It takes a little longer for them to learn how to get back up. If you hold their hands, they're kind of bouncing up and down with their knees. You can see them kind of weight bearing all that weight through their legs, which is good. They need that for walking, so that's a good skill to have. And sometimes they'll hold weight on one hand while they're on their tummy. So they're on their belly and they're reaching for something like really far, and you can see them just balancing with one hand and really trying to stretch over. So you see them get up on their hands and knees. Some kids will army crawl, where they're not on any hands and knees. They just really pull themselves to where they need to be. Others will get up and kind of rock back and forth. Typically they go backwards first, and then get stuck up against the wall and get mad. And then they're still kind of raking to pick things up. So when we say that, it means they're using their whole hands like a rake and kind of picking everything up. So the more refined kind of pincer grasp hasn't happened yet. You want to take over?
Sure. Okay, so as far as social and emotional, they're going to smile in the mirror when they see themselves. They're going to get really excited. And they're going to start to go through separation anxiety, which is really, really challenging for everyone involved. If your child is in care, it's really hard for us, and it's extra hard for you, especially because they're absolutely devastated when previously, potentially the week before, they could have been completely fine. Usually that phase doesn't last too long. It kind of depends on the child, and it depends on how many new people they see. Most of the kids that we've had at Meeting Street, it could be a couple months or it could be just a week, and then they're over it. It kind of depends. Which is exactly what the fear for previously accepted situations. We've had a couple kids who were previously fine with being changed, and then all of a sudden now they are screaming and crying and don't want to be changed anymore on the changing table. So it kind of depends. They definitely will show you kind of what they like and don't like now at this point, and they're definitely going to start to seek approval from you because they like to see that smile on your face, and they like to know that you're happy with what they've accomplished. You want to take this, or you want me to do it?
So nutrition at this age, they're
goodness.
eating baby food and cereal, usually between 20 and 24 ounces of formula or breast milk is usually what you have for fluid. So obviously if they're not eating as much, you want to kind of cut back your fluid, and if they're not drinking as much, you want to kind of cut back your fluid. So a typical schedule, usually by the end of 9 months, is kind of a bottle when they wake up in the morning, cereal and fruit for breakfast, vegetable and cereal for lunch with I use a sippy cup with a couple ounces in it because we're trying to work on using that cup. And then sometimes you can do like a 3 o'clock snack depending on how late the dinner piece is. So a yogurt or a fruit or vegetable at that point, or some little finger foods to pick up. And then at dinner you would do half a fruit, half a vegetable, and some cereal, and then a sippy cup again, and then you can do a bottle before bed. So I think we do about, so we're at 9.5 months, we do about 18 ounces a day and the 3 meals. So we eat dinner fairly early because she goes to bed, so I don't really need that snack in the afternoon. So
how many calories would you say a 9-month-old consumes?
So it depends on their weight. I have to add it up. So per ounce is like 20 calories. So if we figure it's 20 ounces a day is an average, so it's like 400 calories there. And then the fruits and vegetables have about 50. So probably, I would say probably about 600, 500 to 600 is about where you're at. Yeah. So at the end of 7 to 9 months, where you might be concerned would be if a child isn't babbling or laughing out loud, if they're not able to sit by themselves, if they're not reaching and holding on to things with their hands, if they're not able to kind of shake rattles and shake toys that they have. So everybody always asks what kids weigh at 1. It's usually double to triple their birth weight. It's kind of where they tell you is the norm. But for averages, a boy is about 22.5 pounds and about 30 inches, and a girl is about 21 pounds and 29.25 inches. Those are the averages, but averages are changing constantly. The growth charts have changed significantly in the last few years because some kids have grown to be really big. So you're starting to see that trend kind of affect averages, affect growth charts, and things like that. So where I went for my daughter's appointment, she's a pound less than my son was. He was in the 75th percentile at that age, she's in the 50th. So it definitely shows you like the difference that's kind of happened over the years. So cognitively, babies are enjoying looking in boxes and drawers, kind of that whole fill and dump play. You give them a bucket, everything's on the floor. The back end takes a little longer afterwards, but what your ideal situation at that point is, you want them to be able to put the things back in and let go. So they haven't quite always refined that grasp at 10 months to let go of something. but by 12 months they're able to let go and put everything kind of back in again. This is where you start to teach them to clean up. They dumped it out, we're going to clean it back up, here we go, we're going to put it back in. Object permanence is completely developed at this point, and they will start to look for anything that you've hidden from them. So you put it up high, now they're probably pulling themselves up to get it.
My bad.
That's okay. And they start to really check out the pictures in the book now. So before where they were kind of flipping pages back and forth, they might actually look and really check out what's going on in the book. They might be pointing to tell you what to say and looking for the different things that are there.
Shwa. So for 10 to 12 months as far as speech goes, they're probably going to have a single word or two, and it's definitely not always going to mean the same thing just because their language is so limited. You know, they may be saying kitty, but they mean puffs, or they mean juice, or they mean kind of whatever happens to be in front of them at that point. And they definitely are starting to understand no and stop, even though they're pretending. Yeah, even though they're pretending that they don't. And they for sure understand simple questions. So, you know, if you ask them, do you want your cup or do you want your bottle, they're for sure going to be able to tell you yes or no. Jargoning for sure is going to take place at this point, and recognizing the names of objects, people, pets. So obviously they're going to recognize your family members, they're going to recognize family pets. You know, grandma, grandpa, when you mention them, you may see them get excited, they may clap, they may smile. All of those things are going to really start to kick into high gear at this point, for sure. As far as their gross motor skills go, this is when things really start to rev up. So this is when you're going to see them starting to pull to stand. So you may want to put them in the crib so that they can take a nice nap, and they've decided that this is the perfect time to try to stand 8 million times. Exactly, or at 3 a.m. Or at 3 a.m. They're going to start cruising, so they're going to start using your furniture, your coffee tables, anything that's in front of them, any sort of toys. They'll use anything to kind of get around. They're definitely going to start to walk with their hands being held, so you can kind of walk them around the room, and they're loving it. Casey's daughter was doing it today at the petting zoo and couldn't wait to get away from Casey to get to the baby animals. They're going to try standing alone. Sometimes they're going to be successful and sometimes they're not, and they're going to attempt to definitely take a few steps, and they're going to start to drop items systematically. So that's when you'll see the cup being dropped off. Oh, I've dropped it. I don't know where it went. I have no idea. Oh, you brought it back. And let me drop it again. I've dropped it again. This is the awesomest game ever. They're going to use that pincher grass to pick things up, like Cheerios and things like that. And they'll get the most practice if you start giving them finger foods and cutting things up and putting it on their tray. They're going to turn pages in a board book. It's not always going to be one at a time. It might be, you know, they open the book, turn it, and close it. But you're going to see that they're definitely starting to kind of get that concept of what a book is for and why it's actually there. And they're going to be able to drink from a sippy cup or a straw, usually pretty easily, unless, again, we have an alert. And they're going to start dancing. They're going to start, you know, enjoying to hear music and kind of like to get into the rhythm of the sounds that are coming at them. As far as for social and emotional, this is when you're really going to start to see the temper that your child may have. So they're going to get upset if you've decided that tubby time is over. They were having a blast. Hi, love. So they were having a blast, and now tubby time's over, so now they're going to be very upset, and they're going to vocalize it for sure. They're going to like to play near other babies, which we call parallel play. So they like to be in the same space, but they're not necessarily sharing toys with them or engaging with them. It's cool that you're near me. I have my own thing going on. Exactly. Exactly. And now's the time when you're also going to see that they're going to start to test your reaction. So, oh, I've dropped my sippy cup again. What are you going to do this time? Just to see what the reaction is going to be.
What happens if I touch it again?
Exactly. What happens if I touch it again?
So 10 to 12 months, you're starting to see more finger food. So taking things, you might have boiled carrots or boiled sweet potatoes, things like that, and you're kind of chunking it versus mushing it anymore and giving them things, maybe taking a sandwich and cutting it into strips and then cutting those into cubes, things that they're able to pick up and kind of get a handle on. Obviously, you have to base it on how many teeth they have and what they're able to kind of chew at this point, but if you cut things small enough, they're able to eat pretty much anything. They have some really good jaw action there to kind of chew and mash everything. Usually doctors will they start to eat 3 meals a day and then the 2 snacks. So the rule of thumb is kind of 4 to 6 times a day you want to eat, so that breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then sometimes a morning snack and an afternoon snack. So kind of depending on the child. But you kind of don't want to see them kind of picking it the whole day. Usually most doctors at 12 months will have you switch to whole milk because they need the calories for brain development. And they usually give you a rule of thumb is about 16 ounces of milk a day. So kind of you can spread that out kind of however you want. And they will tell you you don't need juice. So I know some people with juice in the morning for breakfast, you can do it, you don't need it. They're empty calories. So at the end of 12 months, if the child is not blinking fast when things are approaching, you would worry about vision. If they're not imitating simple sounds, if they can't hold themselves up to stand, and if they're not transferring objects from one hand to the other, that's where you kind of concerned.
And if they can't feed themselves with their fingers or hold their cup or bottle, that's also one of those alerts that we'd be looking for. Ooh. All right, so for 13 to 18 months, for cognitive, you're gonna have your short-term memory developing. So they can leave an activity and then come back and pick it back up again. They're gonna start to do pretend play. So, you know, for instance, a lot of times in the infant room, we'll see them pick up a block and put it up to their phone and pretend like they're talking on the phone. You might hear mama, dada, and then they put the phone down and the conversation is over. And you're also gonna see them start being able to do puzzles, very simple puzzles. Typically, they're the wooden knob puzzles, so something very easy for them to grasp, pull it out, try to put it back in. Those are the things that you're gonna start to see them really being interested in. And they're gonna start to remember the favorite parts of stories. So for a very simple book, you know, their favorite part might be when the bear's there or when the bunny comes out or whatever it is. And you're gonna see them start to kind of anticipate the arrival of that favorite part of the book.
So what I just gave you is some things that you can use from around your house to start pretend play. So things that are very simple that you have just kind of hanging around, they don't care. They like it, the simpler the better. So scarves, hats, dresses, ties, dress shirts, all stuffed animals, dolls. Favorite for everyone you know is pots and pans and some wooden spoons. They're very happy with that. You need earplugs, but they have, you know, old pocketbooks that you might have cleaned out, things like that. So any of that kind of stuff that you have around the house, it doesn't have to be, you know, Melissa and Doug's costume.
Absolutely not.
It can be kind of anything that you have hanging around. The more typical it is, or the more they've seen you or your family use some of those things, the more intriguing it is. My daughter always wants my son's backpack because she always sees he has that for school. So, you know, the things that they kind of see on a daily basis are actually more intriguing than things you might buy at the store.
I have to say that in my classroom for dramatic play in our home corner, the thing that they love the most are paper bags. Grocery bags from like Whole Foods, like the ones that have the handles. If I put out 10 of those, I don't hear from those children for a solid half an hour because all they do is put all of the food in the bags, walk around the classroom, tell me that they're going to Target to get yogurt, come back, empty everything out, and then start all over again. So it really is that simple. Like, you don't have to overthink it. Give them a paper bag and see what they do with it because just putting things in and taking it out is enough for them. So for speech, you're gonna hear a ton of imitation at this point in time. So a lot of what you're saying, you're gonna start hearing coming back at you. There should be a minimum of 6 to 10 words spontaneously, so things like milk, juice, eat, things like that. And when they say no at this point, you know they mean it. It's not a joke, they're serious. And they're gonna start to understand new words, so you're gonna be able to talk to them and start to kind of expand that vocabulary, and they're gonna start to comprehend it more and more. And they're gonna start telling you about the pictures in the book. So now if they have a favorite part, they're gonna show you that favorite part and request you go to that favorite part. They wanna see it. And they're gonna definitely identify common objects and body parts. So this is when the eyes, the nose, the mouth game is the most fun. You know, show me where your eyes, show me where your nose is, show me where mommy's nose is. All of those games are perfect for kids at this age, and that's the kinds of games that they're really going to respond to.
And they will point to parts on you before they do it to themselves because it's easier for them to see them on you first.
So for their motor development, they're definitely walking on their own at this point for the most part. By the end towards, I mean, I've had kids who start walking literally on their 9-month birthday, and then I've had children who start walking on the day they've turned 18 months. So it does kind of vary. And some of that is personality because some of them are like, I get whatever I want sitting right here on my bum, so it doesn't matter. And then other ones are like, I can't wait to go. Like, I have to get out of here. So it does kind of depend. And I always tell parents to take that into consideration and to not, you know, get too worried. You know, think about your personality of your child before you start to worry kind of about where things are going.
Who's at home. So
exactly.
If you want to chase after, you're going to move a lot
Right.
faster than if there's no one you
Right.
need to move for. Or if you have a sibling that's picking you up and taking you where you need to go.
Yeah, then you don't really need to do much. So they're going to use ride-on toys, so things like the cars that you'll see, the buggies, and anything that has a sturdy enough base where they're not going to fall to either side. Their hand-eye coordination is developing, so now they're going to start stacking things like the rings on the spool. They're definitely going to be able to throw, so the sippy cup is no longer just dropped, but it's probably whipped across the kitchen. And they're going to start to want to creep up the stairs. So all the places that you didn't think they could get to at this point in time are awesome in their world. So the stairs are definitely at the top of their list. So, they're also going to be able to take off their socks, which is, yep, the first thing that they always do, which is so filled with joy when they love it so much. Exactly. They're going to be able to put shapes, those plastic shapes, in the shape sorter buckets. They're going to be able to put crayons to paper and make actual marks with a purpose. So now they're understanding the concept between this is my hand is going to be on the paper, and then I can make some marks. They're going to start to be able to feed themselves. It's not always going to be the cleanest thing in the world. It's going to be usually messy, but it's very important to them that they're able to do it on their own. And they enjoy being as messy as humanly possible at this point. And instead of pushing things in front of them, now you're going to see them start to kind of drag things behind them while they're walking. And it can be kind of anything. My kids in my classroom will use scarves that they want me to tie around things so that they can kind of drag things around the room. It can be anything. As far as their social and emotional, they're going to start to clean up, but they're not always going to be happy about it. But they definitely are capable. And if you make it more of a game, they're definitely usually going to be more receptive to it. They're going to start to feed themselves. Their independence is going to emerge. So you're going to start seeing them really putting up a stance as to what they want. Yes, this is where your tantrums are going to start. And they're unable to recognize rules, but they do have a sense of humor, which will help you in those situations, for sure.
And when you're doing the self-feeding, when they're starting with utensils and stuff, if you can, the thicker that you can start with things, the better for you, because the less mess you're gonna have to clean up. So they make yogurt. I don't know if anybody's ever tried the Yo Baby yogurt. It's like the most watery yogurt you've ever tried to give a baby. It just slides right off the spoon even when I'm doing it. So if you can find like those nice Greek yogurts are very thick. Something like that is a great food to start on a spoon because it's nice and thick and it doesn't kind of come off when they're trying to get it, they tip it upside down and everything when they're trying to put it in. It's a good thick one to try.
So for alerts for 13 to 18 months, if they're not attempting to talk or to repeat any of the words that you're saying to them, if they're not understanding new words that you introduce, obviously there are some words that they shouldn't be able to understand, but the simple words, those are the ones that they should be able to catch on to. They should be walking alone or with a little bit of help, and definitely should be exhibiting a variety of emotions. So, if they're upset all the time, or if they're sad all the time, or if they're kind of just a bump on a log, then those are the things like you kind of want them to be revved up. This is where you want to see that range of emotions. And if they're not able to feed themselves, that's definitely going to be something that you want to talk to your pediatrician about.
So this is my favorite rule for all children of this age. So you got to place all items at least 12 inches out of where you think they can reach it. So if you think they can't reach it here, then you're going to go 12 inches higher. Or if you think, so the dining room table, everybody says to me, I put things in the middle of the table, so the tablecloth's still hanging down. So guess what? If they want that, it's going to get pulled. So just be careful where you put things, and if you think they might be out, go another foot, because then it's really out of sight.
Tantrums, the joy of toddlers. So, yeah, open up your notebooks, kids. Let's do this. Let's do this.
So I went to the pediatrician at 12 months with my son, and I remember her saying, has he had any tantrums yet? And I looked at her like she was crazy. My tantrums are terrible too. What are you talking about? 1 year old. We went home, he literally threw himself on the floor and started screaming. I thought, oh, God, I had a warning. So they start sooner than you think. Now my daughter already has them because when she doesn't want to go in her seat, she arches her back and screams. So she's 9.5 months. So they can come pretty soon. So basically, if you can understand what's kind of causing the tantrums, that already helps you kind of eliminate some of it. So they basically know they don't have the ability to control a certain situation. That's going to cause it. And that all comes from that wanting to be more independent stage, right? They're not able to express their wants and needs. So obviously, at a certain age, they don't have the language to do that. And then as they get older, if you start to see kids don't have a good grasp on language, you're going to see it happen more often because they can't tell you. They want something, and you give them choices, and it's not what they asked for, and they're mad. And the only way they feel like they can solve it is to tantrum. Tiredness, fatigue. So, you kept them up past their bedtime, they didn't nap right, they're teething and they're not sleeping. All of that is going to lead to a tantrum at some point because they're exhausted and they don't know how else to deal with it. And then stress from a new or strange situation. So I don't know how many times you go to a birthday party, and everybody says, I don't understand, every time we go to a party, they have a tantrum because they don't want to leave. Well, part of it is they don't want to leave and they can't control the situation, but the other part of it is they're probably overwhelmed because they were around a bunch of people they didn't know. Or if it was people they knew, it was a strange situation. So kind of when we experience your first reaction, it's kind of like, oh my God, here we go again. And you know, you can be embarrassed by it, you can be like overwhelmed by it, but if you kind of think of these things as it's happening a little bit and assuming what's causing it, it can give you a little bit of like, okay, she didn't ask, I knew this was coming. Here, time to go, we're gonna leave now. So I think some of it is understanding what's causing it will help you kind of maybe even prevent, because going into it, you might know some of that.
We have this little going-on where the mother will talk to her because if someone brushes against her, and just call her name, she'll go right on the floor, bang her head, big knock. And she doesn't know why.
That would be more of a
But yeah, that's more of an alert.
And right, mother.
Yeah.
It's not something that just,
The pediatrician said ignore it.
Which is, I think, the rule of thumb for most things. So what you usually see is,
But I don't want her to hurt herself.
right, what I was gonna say, so usually you see kids have a tantrum, and there's a couple things, like you can walk away and ignore it, but safety is always a concern. So most kids, I don't know if you've ever seen it, like a 2-year-old, they're going to throw themselves on the floor and they gently kind of melt down. But there are kids that don't, and so that's where you're more concerned. If they're hitting their head and it's that hard and it hurts that much, I would be concerned about that.
yeah, and she doesn't even cry sometimes when she hits her head. She cries before she does it. Oh, like she can be walking and I'd be like, let's change your diaper. That's it.
Yeah.
Does she fall on soft surfaces, or
Yep.
has she ever sought out a hard surface? Is that would be another?
She wants to put her on the cement.
So will she, like, if you were to put her in a safe area, would she go to a
Like
harder
the crib.
surface?
She will get up on the crib and she'll hit her head on the edge of the crib.
So some of that is sensory seeking, and so she's probably seeking some kind of input from something. But yeah, I'd be concerned about that. Because usually when kids tantrum, they aren't going to purposely hurt themselves. And if they do it once because they thought it was soft and it really wasn't, typically they won't do it again, unless there's something else kind of going on. So do you want to hit up your toddler rule?
Yes, so I'm going to pass out what I refer to as the Toddlerville rules of thumb, which are kind of what my philosophy in the classroom is based on. They're basically like 5 rules that I stick to and have always kind of stuck to as I developed kind of my philosophy on working with toddlers through the years. So my first rule of thumb that I live my life by is say what you mean and mean what you say. So if you throw that on the ground one more time, mommy is going to take it away. Then if they throw it on the ground the next time, you take it away. So when I say this, I mean if you are in the grocery store and you say, if you scream one more time, we are leaving this store, then you better commit to leaving this store with a full cart and a screaming baby and everybody looking at you, and let them look. Who cares? Because I'll be the person in the crowd going, good job, nice job, mom, you stuck to what you said you were gonna say. That to toddlers is uber important. First and foremost, toddlers are brilliant and they will remember what you say. So if you do not follow up with it, they will remember, and the next time you pull that card, they'll be like, yeah, right, sure, we're gonna leave. You're not gonna leave this time, you didn't leave last time. This is what I mean. So in my classroom, if I say it, I follow through. So I think before I speak, because I know there are some situations I can't do it. You know what I mean? Like I have to make sure that what I'm saying is appropriate to the situation that I'm in.
When you say you're going to sit in the car if you don't stop screaming in the restaurant?
Yeah, you better sit in the car. Yeah, you're going to box it up. You're going to box it up. Right. My second rule of thumb, choose your battles. So if they want to wear a fireman's hat and rain boots and it's 90 degrees outside, I don't care. Wear it. Go ahead. If you want to run in the parking lot though, we have a problem. Now we have to talk because it's not an option. So if it's something that's going to cause them harm, no discussion. You don't get a choice. You hold mommy's hand in the parking lot, you stay in your car seat. I've had parents who've come in and like, I have no idea, they unclick themselves from the car seat and they get out of the car seat. Not a choice. That's not a choice. So if that means that you have to put them in that car seat 100 times, then they go in the car seat 100 times. That's it. End of discussion. But I think that a lot of parents in the morning, they're trying to rush and get out the door and it becomes a huge battle. Parents will come in and be like, I couldn't get them out of their pajamas. I don't care. That's fine. They can stay in their pajamas all day. It's fine.
We're not going to extra clothes. They change.
That's fine. Send me a set of clothes. If you want me to change them, I'll change them. If you don't, I don't care. It's fine. A lot of it is kind of recognizing, and that kind of falls into the own your piece. Is it you or is it them? So is it bothering you that they're going to school in pajamas? Probably, because you don't want to look like that mom. You don't want to be that parent. Oh, I didn't even have time to put pajamas on them. Oh my God, I can't believe this. I don't care. If you don't care, I don't care. Don't care what anybody else thinks. They're your kid. That's all that matters. And all that matters is you're getting out of the house and you're happy. You know what I mean? You've started off the day in a great way. Nobody's screaming, nobody's yelling, everybody's happy. Let's start the day.
And you can also offer choices at that time. So if you're standing there for 5 minutes debating on what to wear in the morning, you pull 2 things out. These are your choices. Pick one. You're giving them the independence, you're giving them the choice, but you're still making the decision.
Right. And now they think they have a little power. I mean, I think that what we forget and what I try to remember all the time, particularly because I'm a super stubborn person who's very strong-willed, and I know most toddlers are, they're about this tall and there's 8 million people around them telling them what to do. Try to tell me what to do and see what happens. I lose my mind. So imagine being a toddler and everybody around you is telling you what to do, and you can't do anything for yourself, supposedly. You know what I mean? Like, everybody's putting food in front of you and giving you your clothes and putting out the toys you want to play with. When you're at 18 months, that's when you start to be like, well, I don't like those blocks. I want to play with my train. But somebody's telling you, well, it's not time to play with the train, it's time to play with blocks. That's how I try to think of it. I try to put myself in their shoes as much as I can, because we forget, because they're our tiny little person that we're taking everywhere with us, we forget that they're a tiny little human being, you know what I mean? And we forget that they should have a say in certain things. What works for me in my classroom is that I create a very consistent routine and schedule. So, by that I mean that if every day at lunch they have to get up and put their cups away, every day they get up and put their cups away. I never change that. That doesn't ever change. If they're losing their minds, like screaming and crying, when they're done, they put their cup away. Doesn't change. I try.
That if one of us walks into her room, they tell us the rules. So
Yeah.
one day I didn't have them do something, they're like, oh no,
Yeah.
Lasagna, let's do this first.
So they know, but part of the reason why I do that is because toddlers thrive on consistency and structure because it makes them feel safe. And my job as a teacher is to make them feel safe and secure and happy. So if they know what's coming next, they're going to be fine. They're going to be happy, they're going to be safe, they're going to be secure, because they know Miss Anj always says, we eat our lunch, we put our cups away, we push in our chairs, then we go to our cots. That doesn't ever change. So I can rely on that every day. And so for kids who might come from a home that isn't necessarily the calmest home or the safest home or the happiest home, my consistent schedule is going to make them feel safe. And for me, that's really, really important. And for them, they respond to it. You know, they love it. They like having jobs. Like Casey said, like, they will tell other people that come into my room, well, this is how Miss Anj does. Like, Miss Anj says we have to do this, you know what I mean? And they like to be able to kind of share that piece with them. My 5th rule, which I have lived by and Casey knows, is process versus product. So typically when you see that statement anywhere, it's like it kind of usually is in like the context for art. So when you put out a piece of paper with glue and with collage materials like feathers or tissue paper, what you want them to explore is the texture of the glue. You want them to see the color of the tissue paper. You want them to hear the crinkle of the tissue paper. You want them to feel the softness of the feather. I don't care if what they make looks like a bird. I don't care. Do you know what I care about? I care that they had an absolute blast spreading glue all over their paper, and they had an absolute blast sticking a feather in and out of it, because they're learning the concept of sticky, of soft, of what their hands feel like now. They're exploring so much in that process. I don't care what it looks like at the end. But what I want you to know is that even like I try to carry it over into other things. So if they put their jacket on and it takes them 15 minutes to get their arm in that sleeve, I'm so happy, because first of all, they attended to task for 15 minutes. That's amazing. Like, they tried doing something for 15 minutes. Sometimes I don't try to do things for 15 minutes, you know what I mean? But they're also learning what works and what doesn't work. So putting your arm in the hood isn't gonna work. It may have taken them 10 minutes to figure that out. Great. What I want from my toddlers is that they're learning through everything that they're doing. So I try to refer back to process versus product, because it's in the journey that they're learning, it's not the end result. So I try to carry that over in everything. And when they're having temper tantrums, I live by these rules. These are the rules that I refer to. And if you were in my classroom, you would see a lot of me saying, I understand you're angry, it's okay to be mad, but it's not okay to It's not okay to hate your friends. It's not okay to scream at the top of your lungs. You know, it's not okay to do all of these things, but I will give them a safer outlet to kind of express themselves. If you're mad, tell me. I'd be mad too. They took your book. That is horrible. I have no problem. And I will justify their feelings. I think that part's important too. Casey knows in my classroom I do a lot of justifying of their feelings. I understand that you feel that way. I feel that way too. Here's how we can do A, B, and C. These rules work for me. Exactly, and then they take those words and use them back to me. So what I'll see is, you know, a lot of times I'll hear my words coming out of their mouths to their friends. So for instance, today I was saying that one of my children has a letter on the rug that he always sits on, and all the friends know it. And another child sat on it very purposefully, like toddlers will, just to see what's going to happen. And the child whose letter he was on said, "Not nice, unkind," which is exactly what comes out of my mouth if they do something that's not nice to their friends. This is what I want you to say. Be honest, it's not nice, it is unkind. Now, how can we fix it? How can we not shove them? How can we not hit them? And most of all, how can we not end up screaming in a puddle on the floor? Temper tantrums are gonna happen. These rules will help you through them for sure, because it'll help you kind of divert a lot of them. Just like knowing when they're tired. If they're tired, let it go. Let everything go. Let everything go and just get them to where they need to be, where they can be sleeping and comfortable again. Okay?
Yep.
You want to pass something out?
We'll go up to, and then we'll pass, yep.
It's not working. I don't know why. It won't let me go forward.
You go back one.
Yes, ma'am.
So concerns at 18 to 24 months, if you're not seeing 50 to 100 words within their vocabulary, and the easiest way for parents to do that, I keep a list on the fridge. As they say things, you write them up on the list. So you want to do it, make sure that they've used it more than once, because you don't own it until you've used it a couple of times. And then so what you'll see naturally happen is once they get 50 to 100 words, they're combining words together. More juice. Yes, please. My cup. You'll see that happen naturally. And then the other thing at this age, if they're not climbing on things, running, walking upstairs with help, that kind of stuff, that's where you're going to be concerned for gross motor stuff. All right, so we'll schedule for this Friday now. You want to do eating first?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, let's start there.
All right, so I don't know how much of a struggle this is for everyone else, but in my household, picky eating was like the nightmare that still goes on. So here are some tips on what to do with those picky eaters. So toddlers are naturally picky, so you can have a child who goes from eating absolutely everything that you give them to they now eat mac and cheese, cracker, and only. Only Oscar Mayer, okay? So you're so excited because they were eating avocados and cranberries and everything else, and now that all just went out the window. Don't give up. There is hope. So, a couple things. Toddlers are, again, trying to be independent. They're going to tell you that they only want certain things. So be it. They want chicken nuggets for breakfast. If they're going to eat them and it's a food that you're okay with, give them chicken nuggets for breakfast. Again,
Choose your battles.
So, a couple of the tips on here. It tells you you're going to make food fun, okay? So if you have a kid that's really a picky eater, you're not giving them broccoli, you're giving them little treats, okay? You cut things up fun, make little things on their plate, make a clown with a pancake and some whipped cream and some strawberries, make fun, okay? That's one of the things you can do. When that fails, anything. You want to leave things out for them. So if a child kind of grazes all day long and eats a little of this and a little of this and a little of this, they're never going to eat a good meal for you. So what you want to do is while you're cooking dinner and you hear the, I'm hungry, you want to be able to put something out for them. Put out a plate of vegetables, because if they're hungry, they're going to eat it. Put out a plate of fruit. Put out what you want them to eat. Make it fun, or just put it out and kind of put a variety. So I found that if I only put carrots out for dinner, he didn't want them. But if I put up carrots, tomatoes, cucumbers, and peppers, he was sure to eat something on that plate. And so you kind of have to just gauge what you want them to be able to do. Kids love to dip things. So if you can offer a healthy dip, cottage cheese, yogurt, ranch dressing, ketchup, you can put that out, it will help. Some kids will really enjoy that. Guacamole is a big thing that kids actually, I didn't realize, but they really like it. That avocados are a big thing now. Kids really like that. If you can spread stuff on crackers, So peanut butter, cream cheese, all that kind of stuff. Making a, you're adding your protein, or you're adding the piece that's healthy onto the cracker. Put a slice of apple on it, put a slice of blueberries on it. You'll get them to eat the fruit by eating the cracker with the other stuff on it. Putting favorite toppings up, so having the yogurt, dumping some blueberries in it or dumping some strawberries in it. If they like the yogurt, they'll usually eat the stuff that you're sticking in there too. You can always hide things in food. So I actually had bought that cookbook. What is it called? It's pink.
Oh, deceptively something.
Deceptively
Delicious, yeah.
There's actually squash and brownies, and they taste like brownies. So I did get to that point where we were starting to hide things. Mac and cheese was made with, I think,
Butternut squash.
And it was put in with the cheese, you couldn't taste it, and you were getting a serving of vegetables in it. So when you get desperate, you can always hide things too. Drinking things, you can make a smoothie. Put things in a smoothie, like put your bananas and your Greek yogurt and all that kind of stuff in there. Cut it up. Sometimes if you take a sandwich and you cut it into 4 pieces, they will eat it. Just because you cut it. Cut the crust off. Sometimes they just don't want the crust. Package it up. Give it to them on a new plate. Give it to them in a container. Give it to them in a new cup. Try anything that will kind of change it up a little bit. They like things that are small, so sometimes if you're looking at a big plate, it can be overwhelming, but if you give them a little plate, it's not so bad. Same thing with food size. You give them a big bagel, and you give them half a bagel, that might be too much to look at, and just looking at it is overwhelming. But if you give them half of a mini bagel, or if you give them a whole mini bagel, it's not quite so overwhelming for them. Thinking of doing things with them, like planting a garden. If they're helping to grow some of the vegetables or fruits with you, they might be more excited about trying them because they did it themselves. Slipping things in, like just grating things sometimes and slipping them into salads so you can't really see what they are. Making vegetable art, so kind of letting them make their own design on their plate with the vegetables and stuff is always fun. Remember, and that's something else we have. Remember that their tummies are tiny. So I'll never forget saying to my friend who was an OT here, I can't get him to eat. All he eats is like a quarter of a sandwich and a half a slice of apple. And she said, and that's fine, his belly's this big. It's the size of their fist. Don't worry about it. So I had to relearn what portion size was for my toddler because I didn't know. I didn't know what portion size was supposed to be. So kind of thinking of, just you're feeding a little belly. So actually a serving size for a toddler is a quarter of a sandwich. If they're eating a quarter to a half of a sandwich, you're good. They got what they needed out of that. So.
What is the calorie? Is it like 1,300? Because our daughter, she's like a lot. She's constantly eating. She's very
Yeah, she is.
And like I give her full breakfast before coming, and she comes like 20 minutes later. She wants to have a snack. But she said,
but you have to keep in mind too that she burns a lot of energy.
So
she's a non-stop kid. So she's burning through that food, which is why she's always eating.
3 meals and then 2 snacks, which is probably what she's getting, right? She's getting breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner. That's fine.
She's jumping all day and
One of the doctors that we had here told us that as long as the toddler eats 1 square meal a day, it doesn't matter like how they eat it. If it's in 3 setting, like you know what I mean.
If you've kind of gotten it over the course of the day.
Exactly, over the course of the day, if they eat 1 square meal, they're good. So not worry about it.
So, and then on the last page is just a bunch of really nutrient-dense foods. So you can get a lot of nutrients just out of these foods. So if they only ate a little bit, you're still getting like your bang for your buck with the nutrients in it. You're getting a good amount in there.
What about drinking?
So drinking, you want to try to do milk and water as much as you can. 16 ounces is more than enough. That's all they need for a day.
And what kind of milk? Or do you
So by toddlers, you can go down to 2%, 1% skim milk. It's kind of, you want to discuss that with your pediatrician, what they think is best. So someone a little tinier might stick on the 2%, or they might stay on whole milk. So it's based, I would definitely ask the doctor on that. I know for us at 2, we, because 1 to 2 gives you whole milk, and then at 2 we switched to 1%.
And do you know about cholesterol testing? Do they do it? Is it like a routine thing?
It's not a routine thing at that age, no. You can ask for it, but it's not a routine thing they do at that age.
Because somebody, like the guy that would have high cholesterol, she doesn't eat the right food, right?
Yep.
It's not about the weight, but the food.
Right, absolutely. So, and typically kids, because they burn off so much and they're moving so much, cholesterol is not typically an issue that you come across, but if you are concerned, you're welcome to ask the pediatrician to test when you do your physicals. They can do that.
When I asked you about the drink, it's because we also have our own child who turned 1.
Yeah?
We can't get into drink, nothing.
Nothing.
We've had
Something that can put
CB
on.
cups, all times, anything.
Yeah.
We even offer him a bottle, he will not open his mouth. So.
But he eats okay?
Yeah. He will eat anything, but he will not touch anything else.
Does he seem dehydrated? Like, or is he drinking at home, or no?
It's ever since he had hand, foot, and mouth.
Oh, like he's probably afraid because it hurt to drink when he had it?
Yeah, but how come he eats every?
It's
like,
different.
Is it
When you're
different?
sucking on something,
It hurts.
and you have those blisters in your mouth, it really hurts. Kind of like when you have strep as an adult and you swallow something and you feel like razor blades are going down your throat. For a child with hand, foot, and mouth, you are swollen and you have sores all over your mouth. So depending on what he was eating at the time, if it was smoother textures, it may not have bothered it. But if the sucking from the cup, or depending on what was on the cup, like if he had apple juice or anything like that, that would have burned, that he may remember that that really hurt.
What about syringe feeding?
Oh, that's what they were
You
doing.
can even try a spoon, like just putting some, something thicker, like on a spoon, and seeing if he'll take it off the spoon for now, and then you kind of still switch to something. Have you tried the straw? So you know how you put your finger over the straw?
Yeah,
And just take it that way and then let
he
go?
will not. He doesn't open his mouth. Anything that's like liquid, he would just,
That's interesting.
There are spoons that have like,
yeah, the little.
What does he eat?
Just,
What are the textures of
he's
food?
he's very well. Like he eats
Really?
yogurt with the fruit, and then he eats like.
That's really weird. No.
That's everything. So it's just drinking, which is like for a year old.
Oh, did you, and this is crazy, would you try and open it up just for fun?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can get him, but then he, maybe 1 or 2 sips and that's it.
Yeah.
It's fascinating because it's
Does the
not.
pediatrician say?
It's okay. I don't understand again. It's okay.
Well, as long as his diapers are wet, he's getting.
His diapers are his diapers wet when you change them? For the most part. For the most part.
Sometimes, yeah. And he just got an yeast infection. And I feel it's due to not drinking.
Right, not flushing out of the system.
Yeah, because he was drinking like 3 or 4 times a day.
Yeah.
No, it's
No, he's not.
What about frozen pop, a Pedialyte pop?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if you could try that, something like that, like a Pedialyte pop or something, because at least he'd be getting hydrated.
How much longer can we keep doing this? I know eventually he's gonna have to take something.
Right, eventually I think he'll, but I would have, if it continues much longer, I'd have mom call the pediatrician back again and say,
This is
it's not
something-
happening.
Yeah.
And then I would say if you're getting dry diapers constantly, then I would be more concerned. But if they're still kind of wet, then
Yeah.
I wouldn't worry, he's getting fluid from
He's
somewhere.
getting fluid somewhere, yeah.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, thanks.
So you eat celery, anything like that? I don't know if he's old enough to have, but any, like certain foods have like that liquid in it and he's getting it from that too. All right, did you want to go biting? Oh, let me do this.
Joy of joy.
I'll just pass it on while you go. I have one more thing on picky eaters that I'll
Yes.
give you and then I'm just gonna move on.
So hypothetically,
Yeah.
when you have a crossover between like a tantrum and when food ends up on the floor or
Uh-huh.
thrown in some way.
Yep.
I mean, taking in mind all of these tips and
Yeah.
ideas, but
Yep.
I mean, what can you really do? I mean, behavior. At some point, you can leave food out but if you're trying to have a routine with to eat around
Right,
this time.
right. I mean, in my classroom, and my kids are, right now my group is like 2 to 3. So in my classroom, the deal is, if they throw it on the floor, they have to pick it up, first and foremost, and they have to throw it in the trash. If they throw it again, then they're done. So I give them 2 shots. I give them 2 shots because I don't want to create that habit of, well, I want your attention, so I'm going to throw it on the floor. Which sometimes is what they do. They can kind of get into a routine of,
Could be a couple of things, maybe they're just done eating, whatever.
yeah, it could be
It's
done.
fine.
And if they are done, then I do encourage my kids to kind of vocalize that. So if they are done, they just need to tell me. So sometimes the younger ones will do that. If they're all done, then you'll see that they start to play with things, they start to drop things on the floor, their cup is falling, those sort of things start to happen. I try to keep as much of an eye on the patterns of my kids as I can. So some kids, when they're done, can't sit in their chair anymore. So now they start to wiggle, now they start to play with things, you know what I mean? That's when I start to see behaviors coming out. And some of my kids, when they're done, will say, I'm all done, I'm done. Can I get up now? I'm done. Absolutely. But again, whatever my response is, I try to stick to it. So if I've gone through my routine and if I've already asked the questions, are you all done? Do you want something else? Sometimes that's the thing. Sometimes they're bored with what they have. If I had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich every day, I'd throw it on the floor too. Like, I mean, it is what it is. So sometimes that's an option too, and that's okay. But if you offer them something else and they're still not responding to you,
even if it's at the point where you feel sending them off to,
Right.
that they haven't had enough.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's okay, again.
It's okay. It's okay. And let their teachers know. I mean, by all means, I've had parents come in and be like, I tried to feed them like 4 different breakfasts and they won't eat anything. Not a problem. Don't worry about it. Pack up that breakfast, send it to me. I can guarantee you they're going to sit down and eat because they're hungry. Because they're hungry. And because now their friends are all sitting, so their friends are doing something that at home wasn't so much fun. But now there's 4 other people at a table. You're my size. You all have different stuff. Let's talk about it. Let's hang out. We call it like coffee hour in the toddler classroom. My kids come in and can sit, and I'm not joking, they'll sit for 45 minutes to an hour. And they'll just graze and have some like goldfish. And most of them already eat, and their parents will say that. Please don't think I didn't feed them. I fed my child. I know they just want to socialize with their friends. It's okay. But that's one of those times I tell parents, don't pick that battle. I can fight that battle. That's not a problem. Because at school, it won't be that big of a deal. And most likely, the next time you try, they'll be over that. They'll pick something else that they want to start with you.
Like age too, there's a certain point where you can have a child pick something up.
Right. Yep.
But when they're very young,
Yep.
it's kind of like
Yep, you can't. And that's when it's really important to kind of read those cues. So you're right, they could be bored.
20 months, but I mean, even if this is something that may happen.
Yep. Allegedly it occurred. Allegedly.
One of those situations where, your food is on the floor, are you all done?
Yeah.
And and if they say no, you can give them, food again, and if they throw it, and when you give it to them, you say, if you throw it again, you are all done. And that's it, again, it's one of those things, you said it, you gotta stick to it, and that's it.
Right. Yes.
I had a question about bottles. I have a 21-month-old, and we've had a horrible time trying to wean her off bottles. And she drinks out of a sippy cup, a straw cup, any other style of cup, but only water. And when you put milk in it, she refuses to drink out of it. And, we've not really committed to just stopping it. But I guess if you have any tips or suggestions, and I guess I'm hesitant because I don't want to not give her milk, but she's getting so many nutrients. I wonder if at this point we just kind of stop giving her milk.
I think you keep offering the cup with milk in it instead of the water. The water goes away. If you want her to drink milk out of the cup, you gotta put the milk in the cup. And then you've gotta kind of sell yourself to the idea that for a few days, if she doesn't drink it, she can eat, will she eat cheese, yogurt, that kind of stuff?
She won't eat unmalted cheese, and she won't eat yogurt.
Alright. We can find another dairy. Cream cheese, a bagel, some cottage cheese. What'd you say? Cottage cheese.
Cottage cheese.
Broccoli.
Will she let you melt cheese?
Like, or would she?
Melt cheese. You can melt cheese on things.
So grilled cheese maybe? Let's do
Yeah,
grilled cheese.
grilled
Okay.
cheese.
So if you can kind of commit to, I'm gonna do dairy a different way for a few days and kind of offer it. The problem I've found with bottles is if you don't go cold turkey, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
If you kind of keep offering here and there, she's gonna hold out to the
Yeah, and we moved when she was 12 months, and we've been traveling for like the
Yeah.
past
Yep.
8 months, and so we just didn't kind of commit
Absolutely.
to.
I think it goes with the whole, moving on to the potty training and stuff, you gotta commit to it. Like, this
Yeah.
is time, we're not gonna go back to diapers, we're gonna go to this, we're gonna,
Right.
but obviously you're worried about calcium, so as long as she can get that,
We've done that and hydration.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I guess if
What I would say is if you're gonna give her water, I would give it to her in a different kind of cup. So if you're committing to these are the cups you wanna use for milk, just put the milk in them, and then maybe try water out of the bottle,
yeah,
so that it's different.
yeah, she'll drink water out of like anything.
Yep.
It's just the milk. And
Right.
I don't know if it's a comfort thing or what. but-
I have found that if I put water in a cup, they expect water in a cup, so it's kind of an expectation thing.
Yeah.
So then it's different when you put something else in there. So if you can give it to her out of something else, like give her water out of a bottle or an open cup,
Yeah.
and you can stick with milk and something else, then she kind of gets, so this is what I'm getting when I get that.
Yes.
Similar question sort of jumping off of that. So Olivia, my daughter, is 11 months, and so we are forward into that. Sort of starting to transition. So she'll be, 12 months in a month, so I don't know when child milk will come in, but she doesn't take bottles that often, so I'm not sure what to put milk into once we start the.
So,
I mean, she does sippy cup. She'll do a
Yeah.
straw, the kind that you like have to bite and stuff for water.
yeah,
But someone said not to put milk in that kind, so I don't know if I just use
I use milk in the
matter
all the
if
time.
it's straw or sippy or hard.
No,
They're
not
more
good.
difficult to wash. the ones
They are
with
more
straw.
difficult.
Yeah.
Milk, and they have like.
Right, and
Right, so they sell those little brushes that you
Yeah.
get in there now, that's what we have.
Are they the hard straws or the kind you have to
Nope, they're plastic, they're bendable.
Okay.
So Playtex sells a couple cups, so there's one that's got 2 handles on it that you can get a spout on for a sippy cup, or you can get the.
Oh, Erin has one right there. Yep, Erin has
You can get
it.
the straw cup. So. Can I play for a minute?
Yes, sorry, I was trying to. Don't drink anything out of that,
Yeah.
but it is hard to
It pulls right out, it comes apart, and then there's a little brush that you can use to kind of just paint in between.
You just have to spread it well.
Or she doesn't have to bite it
No,
to open
you're
it.
just
It's
like
bag
letting
thing.
it go.
Completely open.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I will say though, Erin, I don't know if you've had this problem that I've had, is that if you put the cap on too tight, it loses its suction, you can't get anything out.
Yeah, and if you don't put it on right, it shoots out the top.
Right, or it's not too serious and it goes in. Right. So you gotta just kind of not push too hard, because the other day I was sucking out, so I'm like, why can't you get everything out here? I couldn't get anything out. So,
You want milk?
So she does straws pretty well. Is it an issue? So with the bottle, she's really independent right now and she wants to drink it, but she thinks it's straw, so she just tries to suck at it. So should I try to become teach her how to like tilt and drink, or
so those are nice, because you don't really need to tilt too much.
But eventually she'll need to learn how to drink out of a cup.
Yeah, eventually. I mean, it's not.
So should I like do I avoid the straw thing and go to the
So I will tell you what our speech therapists say here, which is why Erin has one, is it's better to use a straw. Because for mouth formation, for speech sounds, when you suck out of the straw, it's much better than having the tip of a sippy cup in your mouth.
The OT that I'm friends with was like, why do you need a sippy cup? I said, because I need a cup. He's gonna let me drink a straw his whole life. And she's like, we'll figure it out. And he has always used a straw cup,
Yeah.
but he
What do
also
you
was
like
like,
for straw?
sitting on his table, and he's like, I want that.
The funniest thing was, I knew she was ready, she reached over and tried to take some of my coffee, and she got some. So I was like, okay, it's time for straw cup. But if you kind of start with that, they learn it. Now, the tricky part is sometimes getting them to learn how to suck out of it. So is she able to suck out of it? Okay, so you're good.
Yeah.
Because the other trick they teach us is that if you can't suck out of the straw cup, to teach them use a juice box, because you can push
Yeah.
and it learns to go in, and then they learn to suck right out of it. So.
Oh, I'm sorry, can I also just add, you're just saying that. A friend of mine, her daughter doesn't want milk out of the cup, only wants out of the bottle, but she'll drink milk out of the milk juice boxes.
Try it out.
That was good.
Try it out. Good try.
Yeah, so, she was like, there's milk in there.
I know there's milk in there.
We went to where they want to go. They may want potty training versus. So we gave you a handout on biting. I don't know how many of you have kind of encountered that. We only have 15 minutes left. So we've got biting, we've got potty training. I don't know what's more important.
We're gonna kind of have to vote on what we want
We
to
can
cover.
briefly do biting, if you like, and then go to potty training. Is that where we like to go?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Okay. So as far as biting goes, my advice first and foremost is do not freak out if they bite. Keep yourself in check, because your reaction is what they're paying attention to. So most of the time when they bite, they don't even realize that they just bit. So if you're like, oh my goodness, that's what they're now going to focus on. In my classroom, part of my routine and my schedule is set up to kind of help them not be frustrated, because a lot of times when a toddler bites, it's because they're frustrated. They don't have the language, they don't have the patience, you know what I mean? They don't have the capabilities to kind of tell you what they want, so they're gonna bite. A lot of times they're so mad they don't even realize what they've done. It's kind of just a reaction. Our reaction in the classroom is very calm and very to the point. Mouths are for food only. We do not bite. That's it. And anytime they do bite, that's all I ever say. Mouths are for food only, we don't bite. I don't have a huge conversation about it. I don't make it a big deal. It's very cut and dry and to the point. What I do try to do is, if I do have a biter, I try to make sure that I become their best friend. So now they're within arm's reach of me. And I become the mouth that they can't use. So if I see them entering into a situation where I think they might need a little help, oh, Johnny, do you want to play with that truck? Okay, it's Johnny's turn now, and I'll help him. My turn, right, Johnny? You say, my turn. It's where you really step in and kind of help them have the skills that they're going to need, because that's what's happening. What's happening is they're getting frustrated, they're getting angry, so instead of telling you that they're mad, they're going to bite you and take a truck, because that's really the easiest way to get it. And I've seen it happen many, many times.
That's kind of our main reasons for biting. So cause
Right.
and effect, if they caused a commotion the first time it happened, they're going to do it again, because they got attention for it. They're seeking some of that extra attention, so they're going to go for it. Frustration, lack of language, lack of expression, which is where I'm just talking about imitation. So what we find happens in a toddler room is one kid bit, and that kid that got bit someone else, and so it's a vicious cycle. So that does happen. And again, please don't freak out, because it does happen.
Yeah, we won't think that your kid's like the vampire in the classroom. Please don't think, because I've had a lot of parents be like, should I write a note? Who do I apologize to? Relax.
Yeah.
We're used to it. We got it.
I
Yeah, where's that mom? Please, we got it. And also know that if you're in care, your child's name is never mentioned to the other parent, so it's always another child, so please don't worry about any of that either.
And then if you can pinpoint the cause of it, so if you know it's lack of language.
If you know they're tired, if you know that they bite when, I've had kids who get very nervous when we would, start to transition. So from one activity to the next, they would get kind of overwhelmed, nervous, and that's when they would bite. So once I pinpointed kind of that pattern, then I would make sure that now I'm giving them a 5-minute countdown, now I'm giving them a 2-minute countdown. Okay, Johnny, now it's time for us to clean up trucks, and now we're gonna play with this. And again, I'm their best friend, I'm within arm's reach of them, so that I can kind of help divert. Yes?
I don't know if you're talking about, but what happens if they're targeting an individual child? Or you feel as though they are?
You know what? I personally have had that situation happen kind of a lot in the classroom. And part of the reason why they will target a child, because if that kid yelled really loud, they love it. So what I try to do,
They got the reaction
they got that reaction that they wanted. So now you're devastated and I'm playing with the truck and life is great. So what I try to do is if I do find a child being targeted, again, that child's my best friend. So now we're within arm's reach. We're creating separate centers. So now they're not really playing together. I'm trying to keep them separate. And when they are playing together, I am facilitating that experience. So, oh, isn't it nice that Johnny's gonna share your truck with you? This is so great. I'm trying to make it more of a positive thing. But again, your reaction is what they respond to. So I try to work with the kids in my classroom too. I know it hurts, I know it's hard for you. But again, trying to give them those words that they can use to get out of the situation. Okay, so potty training. Potty training is an interesting time for toddlers. Toddlers, when they're ready, they will let you know. A lot of people here, because I've been with toddlers for so long, refer to me as the potty training guru. So I get a lot of questions about potty training. Again, I refer back to my rules of thumb. I use those for everything, and I use them especially for potty training. One of the things that I like to stress with parents is that just because they've said that they went pee or that they have poop does not mean that they're ready to potty train. So a lot of parents get all excited and they're like, yes, they said that they were wet and now here's your pull-ups and let's do this. No. We're at A and you want to get to Z and it's a bit of a long road. Is it fantastic that they're telling you that they're wet? I love it. Great. Keep encouraging that. But what I'm looking for in regards to being ready to potty train is that they're staying dry for longer periods of time, that they are vocalizing what they've done or if they need to be changed, that they have the ability, which is really important in a toddler classroom. If your child's at home, it's a little bit different, but in a classroom, please keep in mind there's usually one teacher in the bathroom, potentially with 1 or 2 children, so if they can't pull their pants down, if they can't help you take off their diaper, if they can't do those sort of movements, then they're gonna have a hard time because they might have to do some waiting, and when you need to go to the bathroom and you're new at it, you're not very good at waiting. In my classroom, what I do tend to do is, this is my potty training packet that I handed out to you guys. So these are kind of the steps that I take. Meeting with the parents is really important to me and talking to them about why they feel their child is ready and making sure that we're all on the same page is really important. The first thing that I usually tell parents is potty training at home is a lot different than potty training at school. Our bathroom is not a happy, quiet place where mommy hangs out with me and books. My bathroom has preschoolers, teachers, children with special needs. We have people in and out. It is very loud. It's very hectic. It's not a quiet, kind of safe place. So they may be sitting on the potty, very willing for you at home, but at school now it's a whole new world, and it's very different. And I can't sit with them and read books because I'm changing somebody else's diaper and I'm making sure they're safe on the potty, and then I'm running back and getting somebody else. So there's a lot going on, so it's very, very different. So what I do ask is that parents get their child comfortable at home with sitting before you're gonna wanna start it at school. Typically, for me in my program, again, I wait to see that the children are vocalizing that they're wet, that they can kind of tell you, and that sometimes they'll want to sit on the potty. It doesn't have to be consistent all the time. Usually that will come in time.
And typically their diapers have been dry for longer periods.
And typically their diapers have been dry for longer. They're more interested kind of in you and the bathroom and kind of what's going on in there, and they want to sit in there with you and all that stuff. That's all great. With me, I typically will potty train a child in 1 week. So from beginning to end, when we're ready and they're ready, we go from diapers to underwear 1 week. I don't do pull-ups because I think they're a waste of money because it feels exactly like a diaper. What I do tell parents is to go to Target or Walmart or to shop online and get the rubber pants that will contain any sort of mess that they do have. They have some that are padded. They're very hot, they're very uncomfortable, they don't like wearing them. I wouldn't like wearing them either. But if you do it right and your child is ready, they won't have to wear them for long. Usually I just use that as a backup. We have one little girl who's potty trained right now and she legit went straight from a diaper next day into underwear. Has she had accidents? Absolutely. She's supposed to, and that's okay. And when she has an accident, that's what I say. No big deal, we'll go change you. What pants do you want to wear? What underwear do you want to wear? Okay, great. Change them, back outside we go. Nothing in the routine changes. I'm not upset about it. She's not upset about it because she knows that I'm not upset about it. It's the same thing with biting. My reaction is what's most important to her. I don't care. If you're wet, no biggie.
You good about it, the worse it's gonna be.
Right, and what I do try to do with parents especially is that when you are ready to potty train, more importantly, when your child is ready to potty train, please set aside a lot of time because it's going to take a lot of time. In my classroom, when kids start to potty train, I'm sitting them every half an hour to every 45 minutes. That takes some time. That's at least 10 to 15 minutes that I'm in the bathroom with them every half an hour, 45 minutes.
You have enough underwear, enough clothes.
Right. Shoes, you need shoes. I always tell parents, please don't do it when you're going to take a vacation. Please don't do it when you're going to take a road trip, or if something's coming up that you know that they can't do, please don't do it. It's not a big deal. Summertime's the best time because you can kind of let them run around outside without their diaper on and you're not going to have to worry about it. They can kind of get a feel for it and it's not a big deal if they pee in the yard. Who cares? Not a big deal. So I do ask parents to kind of let me know so that I can kind of plan it around them. So if you know that you're having a baby in 3 months, please do not ask me to potty train your child because now you're gonna bring potty training in and then a new baby and you may go back. Because that's a huge interruption in their schedule, and that's the first thing that usually goes. Potty training is the first thing that they'll regress on, if they can regress on anything, because they know it's the easiest thing. I mean, let's be honest here, it's the easiest thing in the world to regress on. So I do ask parents, and I really stress that, to make sure that you have the time and make sure that they are ready, make sure that they're showing you that they're committed to it. And again, once they're ready, it's going to be easy. You're not going to have to battle with them, but if you do battle with them, it means they're not ready. So if you try and they freak out every time you sit them on the potty, stop. Don't do it anymore. All done. Moving on.
If she wants to sit in the potty,
Yep.
and but she doesn't do anything.
That's fine. She can sit on that potty all day. Go ahead, sit on it. I don't care.
Toilet paper.
Loves toilet paper. Toilet paper.
You want to use that.
Toilet paper's not an option, but she can sit all day.
Plays with it.
Right.
Like,
So I would take the toilet paper out, and she can sit as much as she wants. She's probably not going to want to sit as much. Yeah, she won't sit as much. Right, and that's exactly kind of what. So that's what you need to figure out, because there are a lot of fun things that happen when you potty train, especially if mommy or daddy are in the bathroom with you. Especially if there are books involved and all that sort of stuff. But once you're ready to do business, we're here to work. Like, we're here to get something done. We're here to do business. So, yes.
For if your child's in childcare, what is the age you can start having?
According to DCYF regulations, we cannot sit a child before the age of 2. In my classroom, the rule is I will not sit a child unless they're asking me and unless they're comfortable and happy to sit on that potty. If I sit them on the potty and they cry, I'm done. Yes.
So my daughter, who's 21 months, our pediatrician told us to just get a potty chair, put it in the bathroom, and
Yep.
let her just get comfortable with
Yep.
it. So we've not started potty training because I think she's a little too young. She now wants to sit on it every day. So we
Yep.
let her sit on it every day. She's not ever used it. But the other thing that's started in the past week is that she talks about pee-pee, poo-poo, and then takes her diaper
Yep.
off and refuses to wear the diaper.
Yep. Right.
And we have huge tantrums about that.
I'm sure you
So
do. Yes.
I'm not quite sure, we can't start potty, it can't be
Right.
enforced here yet, so I
Right.
really don't want to.
Right. It's really tricky, and I mean, the thing is like, I've had a lot of parents who have said that. A lot of times that becomes kind of a battle of wills, because again, taking the diaper off, and you know that she's going to wreak havoc now, and she knows it too. Like, she knows that that's free reign now that I don't have a diaper on. I have told parents before that, sometimes that's when you have to put a onesie over it, or that's when you have to kind of put overalls on. Now you don't have access to it. Again, that's one of those things that And I'm familiar with your child, so I know that she mentally wants to be there, but physically she's not ready. And that's really hard for kids. It's really, really hard because she wants to do it and she's like, I'm perfectly capable. Why won't you let me do it? But her body isn't ready. And
Let her pass out and then put a diaper on.
Exactly. I mean, I would say try the onesie thing, or try to kind of just defer from it. You can, I mean, some parents have had, exactly, the one-piece rompers. Some parents have had great success by putting underwear over the diaper, and that ends it. Like if you get Pretty Princess underwear and you leave that on, and then sometimes they'll leave it alone. It is going to be a battle, and just as a side note, she's probably going to give you a lot of those because she's always going to want to be probably 5 steps ahead of where she is physically, just because of where she is. She is that little girl who's like, but I can do it, and I don't understand why you're telling me I can't, you know what I mean? And it's really hard because that will frustrate her, and you don't want to do that. You don't want her to be frustrated with it. So try the underwear, try the rompers, try the onesies, and see. It's probably going to filter out. I mean, she'll probably find something else to battle with you on, which might be an easier battle than a diaper. You know what I mean? Like those are kind of the things that you have to wait out for. And obviously once she's 2, by all means, jump on that bandwagon and run with it. And she probably will be kind of one of those kids who potties early, but she also might be in that phase where she's like, but I can do it, so why don't you just let me? You know what I mean?
I learned how to do this.
Exactly. I'm obviously ready. I know what I'm doing already. Right.
So just so you know, because we're running out of time, I handed out a list to you guys of some really great books to use with kids, 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3. I put some of them out for you to look at. If you've not seen some of these books before, take a look at them. They're fabulous. I actually even included for you a list of books in Spanish that I actually was able to find the same titles in Spanish. So we actually are running a project here. We're working with the State of Providence doing Providence Talks. These are the books we're using with those kids because they've been found to be some of the best books out there. So feel free to take a look at them, but if you don't have some of them, I highly suggest you get a couple of them. They are just fabulous, and I got them all at Amazon and didn't pay more than $5 or $6 for a book. So I think
that's all we have.
That's all we have. So I think before you go, there's some growth charts over here that we have, and they have some developmental milestones on them. They're great to kind of have for you, for your children. If you want to take couples out in centers, you're welcome to. And then our newsletter is there as well, kind of let you know what's going on in the industry. And last but not least, if you have a concern about your child's or a family member has a concern, we have a referral line. So for children 0 to 3, you would be referred to our early intervention program. Somebody would come out and meet with you. They would evaluate your child, decide if they need further services or not. We have quite a few kids in our early learning center that are part of our early intervention program. However, we are not the only early intervention, so if you weren't comfortable using Union Street, there are 10 other ones in the state of Rhode Island, so you're welcome to call one of them as well. If your child is over the age of 3 and you have concerns, you would contact your local school department. You ask for the child outreach department, and they would help you set up a screening for that child to go into the school and see if they need further assistance. Okay? Any other questions?
Did we cover the questions that you had as far as diffusing tantrums, toilet training? I think we covered battle royales, yes, and the red flags.
Battle more than boys.
Yes.
Learned that already.
Yes.
We battled over clothes.
Yes.
Girls, it's in their blood.
It's in their blood.
This kiddo and that kiddo should
Right? It'd be like an atomic bomb. Yes, exactly. I know. I know. So any other questions that we can cover? We're good?
All right. Well,
thank you so much. Thanks.